Hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar session, Getting Started with Oasys Reporter. My name is Yitong. I am an engineer in the Ara Birmingham office and I'll be guiding you through today's webinar session. So, hopefully by the end of this webinar today, you'll be able to understand the basics of creating your own Oasys Reporter templates. So when we're creating our Oasys Reporter templates together later, we'll also see how we can link Oasys Reporter with T-His and D3PLOT as well for seamless data integration. So when you have a lot of different models as well, the same template that you've created could be used to automate report generation for multiple other models as well. So through this, we'll learn how to run reporter templates in batch mode. And lastly, most importantly, is how we're going to be sharing the results as well. And that's going to be using Report Viewer. So we're going to show you how you can share and communicate results effectively using Report Viewer. And finally, before ending today's session, we'll look at some of the customized library templates available so that you can utilize them for faster reporting. So, for those of you who aren't as familiar with Oasys Reporter, here is a little bit of an overview about it. So Oasys Reporter is a tool which is used for automatic post-processing of your analysis results, and is designed to work seamlessly with the rest of the Oasys suite. How Oasys Reporter works is it's centered around the creation of templates, and these templates basically contain the instructions, or you could say recipe for post-processing results. So what happens is that when you have another model, you could run the same reporter template on the new model, and you basically repeat all of these instructions that you have given to help automate the post-processing stage. So once you've run the Oasys reporter template on a set of results, you can also save these results in various formats as well. So you can save your report in a PDF file, a PowerPoint file, HTML, and so on and so forth. So this is basically the whole of the Oasys suite, and this is an overview of where everything sits. So you have Oasys Shell, and that basically encompasses all of these software. You can use it to open Primer, D3PLOT, T-His, submit your LS-DYNA runs, or batch run reporter templates as well. And then we have Oasys Primer. You typically use Primer for model preparation before submitting your Ansys LS-DYNA runs. So after we got our results back, then we will go to D3PLOT and T-His for post-processing of our results. And finally, Oasys Reporter sits at the end, whereby if you're going to generate reports, especially in batch modes, it allows you to work seamlessly with the rest of the Oasys suite to get this sorted. And finally, we also have D3PLOT Viewer and Report Viewer as well, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on. They're basically web-based viewers that you can use and accessible by everyone to visualize 3D results or interactive reports. So in today's session, for most of them, we'll be focusing on this workshop example of a bicycle crank. So to introduce the workshop, we basically want to create a simple report for the analysis of a bicycle crank design using Oasys Reporter. So we basically have simulated this Ansys LS-DYNA simulation, whereby the crank is fully restrained at one end on the left over here, and a static load is applied at the other end on the right. So there's a 1000 Newton force which is applied to the right. And what we're going to do is we've run this Ansys LS-DYNA simulation on 3 different crank designs. We're basically interested in a list of different metrics. What we're going to do is we are going to use crank design A to essentially start creating a reporter template. And from there, we're going to save out this reporter template and then use this reporter template for both crank design B and crank design C so that we can automate the post-processing of those models as well. So without further ado, I'm going to now jump into the reporter so that we can work through this workshop together. Alright, so the first thing that you see when you open a reporter is something like this. So you can see on the left, you could choose to create a new file or open an existing reporter template. It also gives you like all the recent files that you have available as well if you want to choose to open it up. Other than that, you can see on the right, there's a lot of library templates that you can choose from as well. So you can see you can list them like all the templates, automotive templates, general templates, so on and so forth. Some of them which we will look at in a bit more detail later. But first of all, we're going to use one of these standard templates that we have over here to start off with our creation of our template today. So there's some filtering that we can do over here. So let's try to filter this so that we can select exactly which team we want. So potentially I want an executive team, and you can select the page size as well. So I want a PowerPoint 16:9. And in terms of the layout, I want a 1x2 layout. So that means that in one page, I essentially have two different objects over here. So this looks like something that I want to get started with. So I'm going to use the standard template over here. So I'm just going to click on it, and I'm also going to click on OK. So then you be greeted by this menu over here, and this is how it looks like. So in terms of reporter, let's look at how the menu layout is. So we have at the top over here, this is what we call the menu bar. So the standard things like file, edit, insert, so on and so forth, they're up here. And then if we go down a little bit, this is what we call the dock widgets. So some of the things that's available here are such as adding a new template, opening an existing library template, adding a new page, deleting a page, start a linked D3PLOT session, start a linked T session, and the undo button. They're all up here. If we go down a little bit further, you can see this is basically the design dock widget. So there's two icons over here, and what they stand for is the design view and the presentation view. So I'm going to go back and forth between the both of them right now. So the difference between the design view and also the presentation view is that normally we would use the design view when we're creating our library templates. Then the presentation view is what you look like when we output it out into like a PowerPoint or a PDF. You can see currently all of these are empty in the presentation view, and that's because in the design view we haven't actually captured anything yet from either D3plot, THIS, and so on and so forth. So later on when we start capturing more and more items, then we see them being populated in the presentation view. Going down, we can see page navigation. So currently in the template, we only have one page. When you have more and more pages added, they will be laid out in the page navigation tab over here. And this, of course, will be our main working area on the middle. Moving to the right, first of all, we have the tools menu. So you can think about adding text, adding tables, adding images, adding objects. If you want to choose anything to add, all of these tools which are available to add will be in the tools menu. And if you want to format any of the tools, for example, in the standard template, we can see some of these tools are already created. You can just click on them, and then it will lead you to the Format tab. And it gives you a little bit more flexibility on how you want to format your each item, changing the grids and so on and so forth as well. So, upon opening up Reporter, the first thing that we would like to do is go into Variables over here, and then click on Edit. So I'm going to explain variables in a bit more detail throughout the session as well. But the first two things that we're going to be talking about is the default directory and the default job. So it's very important at the start to set the default directory and the default job to where your results files are basically located. This means that everything else in the reporter, when you're basically trying to create new objects, capture more items, they will basically look at the default directory and default job to know which exact model to pick up. And this is how Reporter basically works. If let's say you have a new model that you want to run the same template on, the only things that you probably need to change is the default directory and the default job. So all of the instructions will be the same, but you're telling the Reporter template that you want to run the instruction on a new model. So let's go on and change this to where our workshop example is located. So first of all, I'm going to click on default directory, and then I'm going to click on edit to edit it. So on the value over here, I'm going to press on browse, and then I'm going to go to where I have my workshop. So my workshop is basically stored inside Crank Design A over here, in this folder. So I'm going to click on it and click on select folder. The value will automatically be propagated, and then I can click on OK. Now you can see my default directory has been updated. And then if I now click on default job and click on edit, now the value is empty, but I'm going to browse it again. And you can see because my default directory is Crank Design A, so it automatically prompts me to choose a file inside Crank Design A as well. So I'm going to choose the Design A PTF file. That's where my results are located. And I'm going to click on OK. So once your default directory and default job is set up, we can basically start populating our reporter template. So I'm going to click on OK now. So the first thing that we would like to see based on the instructions is the maximum von Mises stress of our crank. So we can see that there's already a placeholder object over here, which is based on the standard template that we've chosen. So I'm going to right click this over here and click on edit. So the first thing is I want to convert this into a D3plot object. So I'm going to convert this into a D3plot object and then click on OK. Then this D3plot object will now give us a little bit more information and a little bit more things to fill out. So the first thing is the name. We probably want to give this object a sensible name first. So I'm going to say maybe like von Mises stress max image, for example. So then if you go down, we can see type. These are the different types that you can choose from, and I kind of want to choose image. What that means is that when I then finally run this reporter template, the relevant image would be saved into wherever my default directory was. So you can see the job files over here. It's quoting the default directory and the default job.pdf. So because we've already placed in the correct default directory and default job, it would know which PTF to open up. Then, in terms of the image file, by default, it would be saved into your default directory and your default job. And then, probably I want to give it a name as well. So I will call it von Mises max. And then it's going to save a .png file. You don't have to worry about the command file and the data file. The command file essentially, when we start capturing things in D3plot, it will automatically generate like a command file. And what that means is that in subsequent times when you run this reporter template, it will basically repeat all the instructions in the command file. So once all of these are basically set up, we could then click on capture, and what that would do is open up a linked D3plot session, which is based on the model that we've chosen just now. Right, so then you can see D3plot is basically opened up now. So let's go ahead and choose what we basically want to plot. So we want to plot the maximum von Mises stress, which is going to be the von Mises stress at the final stage over here. So I'm going to go to category, go to stressed, and plot the von Mises stress. And I want the maximum value of across all integration points, and I'm going to click on SI over here. So this is how it look like. So maybe I'm going to do some formatting. For example, I'm going to change the contour bar at the lowest end to a gray over here. And then maybe turn on the mesh. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that, I think. So this is the image I basically want to capture onto Reporter. Maybe let's do something else as well. I guess we're interested in the maximum value, so maybe we can go to max and min, and we can hide the minimum values over here so that we can just show the maximum values. I also don't like how it's formatted, so maybe we can change it a bit. So maybe I'm going to go to manual formatting, exponent 0, decimal places 1 maybe. Okay, that looks something better. So now I'm happy to capture this image onto the reporter. So once I'm happy with this, what I can do is I can then click on reporter over here. Then this is what you'll be greeted by. So you can see there's the page master, which basically contains different information for the master slide deck. And then we have page one. And that's basically what we are working on right now. So in page one, you can see that there's different items already. And all of these items are present because the template has already added these items there. And that's why it's important to also name each of your objects as well. So remember that the object that we had just now, we named it von Mises stress max image. So this is the one that we want to be working on. So I'm going to click on this one over here. And because I'm happy with this image, I'm now going to click on update. So we basically updated this image onto our reporter template. So now let's go back to reporter, and you can see it's already captured this onto reporter. So now if I go to my presentation view, this is basically how it looks like. So if I go back to the design view right now, and if I right click this object and click on edit, then in command file, you can see that a command file has basically was automatically generated. And what that means is that all of the instructions, all of the steps that we've taken just now to generate that particular image, it has been stored. So that, for example, if we want to run this Oasys reporter template on another model, we can very easily do it. Now, if I go back to D3PLOT, and if let's say I spin this model around and change it back to shaded view, for example, so remember, because the command file has already been stored, so I can basically click on this object over here, and if I click on reload, you can see that it basically reads back all of those instructions in the command file and regenerate the plot that I have over here. So we have the image already saved. Something else that's very nice to do is if we can get the maximum value to be quoted in the report as well. And we can do that basically. And how we do that is we're going to save this maximum value as a variable. And what that means is that we can then quote this variable in various places around our reporter template. So let's go ahead and try to do it. You see over here on the right, there should be a show variables button. If you click on it, you have a pop-up window like that appearing. So for this page over here, we haven't made any variables, and that's why you can see that the existing variables has nothing. So we're going to try to create a new variable now by clicking on the plus symbol. Immediately, this will pop up. So you can see that model defaults to M1 because we only have one model which is opened. And because we are already plotting the von Mises stress, so the component automatically goes towards von Mises stress, and you can pick whether you want to save the maximum or minimum value of your von Mises stress as a variable. So I'm going to choose maximum, and then the default variable name is a little bit long, so maybe I'll try to shorten this. So I'll use von Mises max, for example, and there's a variable description which is automatically populated. So I'm quite happy with that, so I'll leave it as it is. So then, if you want to capture this as a variable, all you have to do is click on Update. And then I'm going to click on Dock to dock the pop-up window over there. All right, so now we've basically captured this variable, and now we're going to go back to our reporter. So in reporter, if you now go to variables and click on Edit, you can then see there is an additional von Mises max variable available, and this is the value which is based on what was in D3plot just now. So now let's try to put this value somewhere else in our report. So the template has already provided us with some text. So one of them is a text object over here called caption1. So let's try to put the von Mises stress value over here. So I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to click on edit. Again, I'm going to give the text box a sensible name, so maybe von Mises stress value. Okay, and then the text, I'm not going to put it as caption 1, so maybe I'll put it as max von Mises stress value. And then in terms of the value, I'm gonna put the variable that we've basically created just now. So to do that, I can basically right click over here and click on insert variable. Alternatively, you can also use a keyboard shortcut Control I and it will do the same thing. So when I click on that, the variables menu basically pops up. So then let's choose which one that we want to input, which is going to be the von Mises max, and click on OK. And you can see basically this is what appears. So you have two percentage signs followed by the variable name in the middle. So you could essentially just type in your von Mises max in this format and it will do the same thing. And I'm going to click on OK. All right, so if I now go to my presentation view, you can see then the max von Mises stress value is basically quoted in my report. So maybe I want to improve the formatting of that a little bit, changing the way it's formatted. So I'm going to go back to variables, edit, and you can see von Mises max over here. I could essentially edit this and then change the format. So maybe I'm going to change this to, let's see, let's choose floating point number, precision 2. Let's try that and click on OK. And you can see now I basically changed it to a much easier to read format. So this is again toggling between the design view and also the presentation view. Now, there's placeholder 2 over here. Let's try to create a video now, an animation instead of an image. But again, similarly, we're going to look at the von Mises stress. So now for this one, I'm going to click on Edit. Again, convert it into a D3PLOT object. Click on OK. Let's give it a sensible name again. So von Mises stress animation, for example. And then for type, let's change it to a movie because we want to save it as a video. All right. So again, the job file, we don't have to change it. The movie file, maybe we want to change it so that this is von Mises max, for example, so that when we save our movie file, it's going to be named as such. Cool. And I'm going to click on OK. So I'm not going to click on capture because I already have a linked D3plot session opened. So what I can do over here is I can go back to my linked D3plot session, and then if I want to capture this animation, I basically could just click on item 2 over here to capture it. So if I play this, so it's a bit fast and we can't really see the deformation much. So maybe I'll do a little bit of changes over here. So I'm going to go to deform, maybe magnify. Let's try 10, maybe 50. Oh, that looks a little bit better. So a bit more deformation, but it's still a little bit fast. So let's try to change that. So down here in animation, maybe we can put the delay 1 frame per second. Let's play it. A bit slow. Let's try to change that again. Delay 5 frames per second. That looks much more sensible. So I kind of want to capture this video now. Quite happy with that. So then, again, I'm going to go to Reporter over here. Click on the correct item, which is the von Mises stress animation object. And then I'm going to pick Update. So now that's been captured. If I go back to the Reporter over here, we can see that the video has been captured. And if I go to the presentation view, you can see that I can basically play the video as well. So of course, everything else, such as the heading, the other captions and everything, these can all be manually edited. But on the next step, what we're going to do is we're going to see how we can link D3plot and this together as well. So this page has already been populated. So maybe what I'll do is I can insert a new page. I'm going to right click on the page navigation, the first page over here, and I can just click Insert Page After. It would then bring me to this pop-up window over here to allow me to choose how I want my new page template to be. And I'm probably going to choose the same template as what we had before, which is the Executive 16:9 Landscape 1x2 layout. So I'm going to click on this and click on OK. So then we've created a new page of the same template. And over here, another thing to note is that we could essentially drag and reorder the pages as you like as well. The next thing on the to-do list is to basically get the maximum internal energy value as well. So to do that, we're basically going to have a linked Oasys T session as well. So on the new page in the first placeholder, I'm going to right click this and click on edit. And instead of converting it into a D3PLOT object, I'm going to convert it into a THIS object over here. And then click on OK. So same formula, we're going to put in a sensible name. So we're going to plot the graph of a total internal energy graph. And again, the image file, let's give it a sensible name as well, such as total internal energy. All right, so we haven't opened a linked THIS session now, so I'm going to click on capture to open one up now. Okay, so this is our linked THIS session. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to plot the total internal energy. So I'm going to go to read over here so that I can read data into my THIS session. Go to global because the total energy is in the global section, and then press internal energy and click on apply. So now I have the total internal energy of my model, which is increasing with time. So I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go back to reporter on the top right over here. And again, now I'm in page 2, and this is my object. I'm going to click on it and click update. Now if I go back to reporter, we can see that the graph has been added to reporter. The next thing we want to do, again, is we want to quote the maximum internal energy value. So we want to save that as a variable. So let's go to our linked THIS session again. So again, you can see show variables over here, same as what we had just now on D3PLOT. So we're going to click on show variables, and again, click on plus to add a new variable. Because the only curve that we have right now is the internal energy, so that's the only curve that we can select. And we're going to get, instead of the min value, we're going to get the maximum value. But as you can see, there's a lot of different types of values that you can get as well. So I'm going to select the maximum as the property, and then give it a sensible name. So I want the max internal energy. Okay, and the variable description, I'm going to put it as maximum internal energy. Okay, so again, update and dock it. So now we have the variable saved and we can access it through reporter. So I'm going to put it down here in caption 1 again. Right click, edit. So again, give it a sensible name. So I'm going to give this the name of maximum internal energy. And then the text again, max internal energy. And then right click on my mouse, insert variable. So we saved it as max internal energy. Click on it and click on OK. And now if we go to our presentation view, we can see the max internal energy being quoted. So now I'm going to go to my THIS object over here, right click and click on edit. So we've captured the THIS object just now, and now we can see that there is a fast TCF script which is basically created over here. So a fast TCF script is unique to THIS, and it basically contains instructions of, for example, the processes of reading graphs, formatting your graphs and everything. And this essentially is same as the command file that we had just now for D3plot. So it's instructions so that if you run the reporter template again, it would just load this fast TCF script to generate the same graphs as you had before. Okay, I'm going to click on OK now. So we have the maximum internal energy captured. And the next thing that we want to do is we're going to capture a 3D content, which is also called as a GLB file, of the X displacement at the final state. So don't worry right now if you never heard of the word GLB before, because we're going to go into the explanation in a bit more detail. So first of all, we're going to go to placeholder 2 here, right click, edit, and I'm going to convert it to a D3plot object. Click on OK. All right, so let's give some sensible names again. Max X displacement. And in terms of type, we're going to choose GLB. So GLB, there's a few things that we can choose from. We can choose from current frame, or we can choose a animation. But what I'm going to choose right now is current frame uncompressed. And then it's going to be saved as a GLB file. So I'm going to give it a sensible name to save at first. So which is going to be max X displacement. Okay. And I'm going to click on OK. So now I'm going to go back to D3plot. Right, I'm going to turn my deformation to back to 1. And then now what we're going to be generating is the X displacement. So we're going to go to displacement and plot the X displacement. So it looks something like this. Okay, so this is probably what I want. I have the maximum value over here as well. Maybe for the maximum value, I can take it as 2 decimal places. So I'll change that. All right, so it looks something like that now. Maybe I'll turn off the mesh so it looks like that. If I go back to Reporter, I can essentially click on Update now. So again, make sure that you're on the right object before you click on Update. So once I click on Update, now I can go back to my Reporter template. If I go to Presentation View, this is basically how it looks like. So bear with me with a little while. I promise I'll explain the 3D objects in more detail soon. But before that, we've basically completed our reporter template over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on File and click on Generate. And what that does is it's going to be able to generate the whole report, saving out the relevant images, animations, and the GLB files that we've created. So if I click on Generate right now, that's what it's going to be doing. It's going to go through the whole report again, run it, generate all of the contents, and if I now go into the folder that I have the analysis results in, you can see that the relevant images, the relevant animations, and the 3D content, which is a GLB file, have been generated as well. And besides that, you can also save your report by writing it out at various formats such as a PDF, a PowerPoint. So let's take an example. If I write it out as a PowerPoint, so I can call this crank A maybe. So now it's written it to a PowerPoint as such. So let's open this. And we can see the report template basically transformed into a PowerPoint slide. And just now, remember that we've also generated a 3D content over here. You can see that when we generate 3D content, if it's a static image in an uncompressed manner, we could essentially rotate this around in PowerPoint as well, as such. So that's one of the ways that you can access these 3D data. And right now, I'm going to jump a little bit further into D3plot viewer and also report viewer as well to see how else can we utilize these 3D results. So at this stage, I'm going to jump right in and introduce both D3plot viewer and report viewer. So what is D3plot viewer? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, D3plot viewer is a free to use, no installation and setup tool online, allowing users to share simple models with audiences efficiently. So these GLB files could be sent around, and essentially, as long as people follow the website, which is linked over here, they could open up these GLB files to be able to look at simple models easily. And the best thing is, it's free of charge. So if I jump onto the D3plot viewer over here, I'll send a link to this in the chat as well. So what you have to do is you can just drop a GLB file. So we've already made one out just now from our reporter template. So I'm going to drag that in and drop it over here. Then D3plot viewer will essentially read the file and open up the 3D model that we saved out. So D3plot viewer works pretty much similarly to how D3plot works. So you can spin the model around. You can see because we've outputted the GLB file as an X-displacement contour, this contour is also carried forward to D3plot viewer. You have a few tools over here on the left as well. So you can open new model over here, change from light theme to dark theme. I could also do blanking as well. So I can click on parts to blank things, middle mouse click to get it back. I can use the types of shortcuts I have in D3plot, such as pressing R to reverse the blanking. I have a simple measure tool as well. So you can pick on two coordinates over here and it measures the length. You can add cut sections as well if you want. So just like that. And you can have a look at the part tree as well to see all the parts inside your model. So D3plot Viewer is a really good way to share 3D models with people. It can work with both single frame static images or even animations as well. And on top of that, we also have Report Viewer. So in Reporter, you have an option to save out your Reporter template as a .orrx file. So I've done the liberty to save one of them out. And from here, we can then drag what we saved into Report Viewer. So Report Viewer, by the looks of it, looks pretty much like what you would expect a PowerPoint to look like. So you can imagine when you're presenting something to other users, this is how you could look through your report together. And what's amazing about Report Viewer is, remember on page number 2 over here, we have a built-in 3D content that we've captured. And Report Viewer allows GLB files to be embedded inside so that we could essentially spin these models around and also use D3plot Viewer in conjunction with this Report Viewer session as well. So these are just some other options on top of Reporter to help elevate your presentations. So now that we've successfully created a Reporter template, we're going to show how we can run Reporter in batch as well, so that if you have multiple models, such as what we have now, which is Crank Design B and Crank Design C, we can very easily run the same template on these models as well. So what you have to do first is go back to Reporter, and we're going to save this out. So I'm going to go to File and click on Save As. And to save your Reporter template, you're going to save it as a .ortx file over here. So you can see that I previously already saved out a .ortx file. So we're going to continue using that .ortx file for this example over here. So previously I've also showed how we saved .orrx files that can be opened up on Report Viewer, and that can be saved in here as well. So the next thing that you do after saving out the .ortx file is we're going to open up Oasys Shell. So here I have Oasys Shell, which is being opened already. So you can see this is how it looks like. And the one that we're going to be interested in is Reporter over here, and especially the batch function. So we're going to click on this because this will allow us to run Reporter in batch. Okay, so when you press batch, this is what it will look like. So what essentially we need to input is we need to give in all the input files that we want, which is going to be Crank Design B and Crank Design C. And we're also going to give it the template that we saved out, so the batch reporter would know which exact reporter template to take to run these post-processing steps. So for the input file, I'm going to browse and I'm going to find Crank Design B over here. And I'm going to choose the .key file. And I'm going to click on Open. I'm going to do the same for the second input file. And this time I'm going to choose Crank Design C. So now that we chose our input files, I'm going to choose the template as well. So we save the template over here. I'm going to choose this for Crank Design B and the same one for Crank Design C. So you could also input a list of your .key files and their directories as a list. And then once you read it in on the top here, it will automatically populate all of these rows over here. So once we're happy with that, then we can look at also the output and run options as well. So in terms of output, I want to save it as a .orrx file, save these as a PDF file, and also a PowerPoint file as well. You have some options as well to run reporter iconized, run reporter in batch, and also automatically exit reporter upon completion. So I'm happy with all of these default settings. So what I'm going to do right now is just click on run reporter. It will then basically run reporter on the background, changing your default directory and your default file in your variables section so that it matches the input files that you've placed in. So we're going to give this just a little while, and then what we're going to see is the output files, such as the images, animations, .orrx files will all be populated directly into where our results for Crank Design B and Crank Design C lay on. Okay, so the reporter is still running in the background and is looking at Crank Design C now, but I'm going to bring my Crank Design B folder over here, and you can see because we've asked for the .orrx file, PDF file, and PowerPoint file to all be created, so they are all populated over here right now, alongside the images, videos, and also the GLB file. So you could also run the Oasys reporter via the command line as well. So how you do this is you give different arguments to the command, and that allows reporter to carry out different actions. So there's some examples over here of how you could structure your command files so that it runs reporter in the command line. So I've also included a reporter manual link as well so that you can see the full list of available command line arguments as well for the different types of inputs and outputs you'd like to populate. So again, I'm going to put this in the chat. So we've talked about how to make your own simple reporter templates, but Oasys Reporter actually has a lot of built-in library templates as well that I like to introduce to everyone, because some of them might be very helpful for your day-to-day analysis, and because they're library templates, they wouldn't take long to set up, but they might be very beneficial to your workflow as well. So I'm just going to do a bit of introduction to some of them so that you get a taste of like what to expect and what kind of things can be found inside the library templates as well. So the first example is going to be a very simple one. So Oasys Reporter basically has like a general Ansys LS-DYNA model reporter template, and that helps you produce the overview of your model checking. So it helps looks into things like your D3HSP file and summarizes the important information, plots some energy balancers as well, and also gives some overall animations of your load case. So we're going to jump back into Reporter to see how we can very easily set that up. So remember, when you open up Reporter, this is the first thing that you'll be greeted by. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into General over here and click on the General Ansys LS-DYNA model. So we're going to click on this and click on OK. That basically opens up the library template, and then it's going to say, please select the Ansys LS-DYNA keyword file for the job you want to post-process. Click on OK, and then you guide you to basically try to find the key file. So I'm going to go to Crank Design A over here and click on this. Please select the directory containing the analysis results. So the directory containing the analysis results will be in this Crank Design A folder. So I'm going to select this and select folder. Please select a directory to write the images and curves to. So maybe I'll just right click, create a new folder over here called results. And I'm going to say I want my results to be written over here. And that's all you need to do. Then the library template will basically open up THIS, for example, to plot the energy balances. So you can see the total kinetic internal energy. You open up D3PLOT as well to help plot some animations of different views as well. And then you can see how you want to save your report as. I'm going to say, okay, I like to save it in all of these formats over here, and click on OK. Please select the file name to save the report. So it guides you on the step-by-step basis. So we're going to select the file name. Okay. So let's select Crank Design A results. Save. And there we have it. Inside the presentation view, we can see over here, it reads up all of the D3HSP file, looks at everything from the elapsed time, start time, end time, the CPU time, to the total mass as well, any added mass, the termination status, some energy balance graphs, and also some images and animations as well over here. And if I go to where I have my workshops, and then if I go to Crank Design A, and let's look at results, we can see all the results are basically saved over here as well. So very easily on the step-by-step guidance, it shows you how you could essentially use these library templates. There's also a range of automotive assessment templates based on the latest regulations which are available as well. And besides that, new protocols are always being added and requests are always welcomed. So if you want to learn more about these automotive assessment templates, please stay tuned to our YouTube channel where we have guidances to all of these different Oasys reporter templates and how to basically use them as well. So again, there's a YouTube link over here. I'm going to put this in the chat so that everyone can have a look at it. So for today, as a live demo, we're going to look at the Euro NCAP MPDB Occupant Assessment Reporter template. So over here, we have a 50 kph front impact MPDB Euro NCAP load case, which has been set up using the public domain Honda Accord model. So that looks like what we have below over here. So in this example today, we're going to use the reporter template available to help automate the calculation of the occupant store. So first thing to do, again, we're going to open up a fresh reporter session and you'll be greeted again by this page over here. So this time we're going to be looking at some automotive library templates. You can see the range of templates that are available, and we also have the templates in both English and also Mandarin for CNCAP. So there's a lot of this over here. So we're going to try to filter this a little bit based on what we want. So the barrier is going to be MPDB, and the one that we're going to be looking at is the Euro NCAP MPDB 2024 Occupant Assessment right over here. So we're going to click on this over here, and then we're going to click on OK. So first thing again, select the LS-DYNA keyword file of the job you wish to post-process. So OK. So I'm going to go search for what we have over here, which I've basically saved it out here. So this is the .key file that I have saved out. So I'm going to open it. And it gives me another pop-up saying that by default, Reporter will search for results in the same directory as the keyword file and write images and other files to a subdirectory. So proceed with these defaults. So I'm happy with that because my results are indeed in the same directory as the keyword file. So I'm going to click on yes. Cool. So now we realize that we basically get this pop-up window over here saying that some of the user inputs required for Euro NCAP MPDB 2024 in this report are missing or invalid. Would you like to create edit user data? So the first time, some of these reporter templates, for the first time when you're using them, there might be some user data that you need to input. So as the first time using them, the reporter might prompt you to go into Primer to try to input this user data. Then for other times when you're running this again, since all of those user data have been saved, you basically don't have to create them once again. But because this is the first time we're running this template, so we're going to click on yes, and that will open up a linked Primer session to allow us to input these relevant user data. So I'm going to click on yes over here. So as you can see, a linked Primer session is now being opened and is reading in all of my key files. Okay, so now it successfully opened up my linked Primer session, and as you can see, this is basically the model that we've been working on. And again, it tells us what exactly are the inputs which are missing. So we're going to click on OK. And this is essentially the pop-up window that we have. So there's a lot of things that we can populate. For example, putting in like the model units, putting the time of a sample, whether it's a left-hand drive or a right-hand drive. So you can see which dummies are meant to be on the left-hand drive and the right-hand drive based on the regulations. Flip the occupants if we want. And from here, we can basically add, if we click on add, for example, on the left-hand side, then it allows us to choose all of these user inputs over here. For example, which node exactly is measuring the head acceleration X, Y, Z, and so on and so forth. So users can follow this to help populate these tables over here. And again, you only need to do this once, and after that, you can always carry these forward to your new models for other analysis as well. And you can do the same again for the other occupant. So you can put in all of these results over here. Okay. And then again, there's some stuff that you can define for your structures as well, your A pillar, your brake pillar, and so on and so forth. So just click into it, and that allows you to choose, for example, which spring ID is used for the A pillar intrusion spring, and so on and so forth. So users can spend some time populating this, and once you're happy with everything, you can essentially save it to a file or save it to a model. And the difference between this is that if you're saving it to a file, you're saving it to a .json file that can be placed anywhere. But what happens is when you run Reporter, Reporter will then look into your current directory and try to see if any of these .json files have been created. So if there are, then the Reporter will basically read the workflow data from these .json files. So you can imagine if you save something out as a .json file and you're running a second analysis on a different folder, you can easily just carry this .json file which is created and put it into the new model folder, and that allows the workflow to run without any issues. You could also choose to save to model as well, and what that does is that it will save the workflow data after *end in your master keyword file. So because the workflow data is saved after *end, it means that LS-DYNA would not be able to pick up any of those workflow data. However, if you open up models in the Oasys suite, then the workflow data will be read. For example, when you open Automotive assessments up in Primer the next time, or when you're running Reporter library templates. So I can click on Save to Model, for example, and then it tells us to write the post-end Automotive assessment workflow data. The model needs to be saved. Are you sure you want to save the model? Then we can click Yes. And then it basically successfully added the workflow user data to the post-end data. And after this, we basically just need to go to model write to save out our model to have the additions. So just now what I did was I pressed on save to model. So I've opened up the .keyword file again to show everyone how that basically looks like. So in the .key file over here, we have our *n, and you can see Primer basically populates some other items after *n as well, which will only be read by Primer. And if I continue going down, you would see this is basically our workflow data, which is what we've inputted over there, and that's basically saved in our .key file as well. So you can imagine if this is saved in a .json file, then it would just be all of these data over here, which is saved in a .json file format. So when I rerun the same thing on Reporter as well, this is basically what I will get. An example showing your occupant score, giving you different metrics as such. Going in to plot different graphs as well, based on the node inputs that you've placed inside Primer just now. So it does all of this automatically for you. And besides that, it also saves out all of your data, like your t-his curves, images, the results in CSV format, all inside a separate folder inside the directory that you're working on. So when you're trying to do any of your workflows, we highly encourage you to look at the available library templates as well to see if there's anything that's already available that might help with your workflow. And finally, going back to the slides, just to show these are some of the latest automotive protocol that's being supported. So we have CNCAP, Euro NCAP, Global NCAP, IIHS, JNCAP, KNCAP, and so on and so forth. Again, if there's anything that you'd like for us to include, please feel free to contact DYNA support and discuss with us. And that is the end of today's webinar. So please scan the QR code over here to subscribe to our newsletter. Keep in touch with all the latest news. And at the same time, if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact us at DYNA support. So thank you very much, everyone.